on the hour. We're a little bit early, so just admire the beautiful pictures on the screen for the next couple of minutes until such time as we get started.
Okay, we're now live on YouTube as well.
We need one of these countdown buttons, Murray.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Welcome to this monthly markets update. Every month at the Club Bonds Initiative, Leah and myself will be coming online to give you a brief 15-minute update of what's happened in the market in the last month and some gossip, which, as you know, is always the most exciting thing. We are simultaneously broadcasting live on YouTube. Many people have connected to us through that way. This will be available as a recorded webinar on YouTube afterwards and be available as a podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast channel at Spotify, Google, or Apple. Thank you, Leah, for joining me to talk about the markets. Now, I want to start off asking you, give me the highlights of the month for our listeners. What was special about this month, if anything?
A lot for sure, Sean. Thank you very much. And also thank you everyone for joining. I would just quickly start with a few figures for our May issuance for green bonds. We're at a total of 14.6 billion for May, which is, even though it's a decrease year on year, it is still good to see, if we look at the chart, that the volume is actually stabilizing. So from the deep dip in March, we can see we're actually at good levels, back at good levels now. So I think that is already a highlight. This is really good news as well. We have a lot of issuance from the US this month, which is mainly coming from US munis, interestingly. So more than 50% of the US issuance was issued by munis. that is an interesting fact. And then we also have a sovereign. We're going to come back to sovereigns a little later on also for the gossip. We had a Lithuanian sovereign issuance this month as well. In terms of deals.
Sorry,
yeah,
Lithuania, you said. Lithuania?
correct.
This is a very small country, albeit
is
incredibly important in Europe. I do love Lithuania. But what was the size of the bond?
Yeah, so that was 28 million euros. So quite small, but still, they actually issued last month as well. So 2
Oh.
months in a row. Yeah.
Do we know placed domestically, internationally? Have you got any gossip on the investor base?
Unfortunately, no gossip on the investor base. We'll keep working on that. Maybe we'll find out for next time.
Okay.
Interestingly, also the only representative of the emerging market section this month. So at least we have Lithuania in the country rankings this time. So this is really exciting.
Okay, so we had a low month, but it was at least similar to last month, but low compared to last year. So we can say best of. Yeah, go on. Give me the upbeat story.
Well, the upbeat story is last year, May was actually the year's peak issuance. So we were,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So we had a lot to compete with, and due to the current circumstances, I still think that 14.6 billion is quite a good outcome for the circumstances. As I said, last year, May was pretty much the peak that the year 2019 saw. So we couldn't compete with that this year, maybe next year.
Fair enough. We're about 70 billion outstanding to date, I think, year to date. We've got a long way to go to reach last year's figure yet. We're hoping for a strong month. So, I mean, for you investment bankers out there, we need you. We need you. Help us get these deals. For you issuers, the demand is there. The moment is coming. So in the next 6 months, let's watch this space. But of course, every month we will talk about this. Please join us again next month. Other key highlights, Leah.
Yes, now that you're speaking about demand, maybe we can just delve into new issuers coming to the markets. And speaking of a lot of demand for green bonds, Swisscom actually issued their first green bond.
Oh, now tell me about it. I'm excited. This is cool, right?
So size is 500 million euros, which is the equivalent of 556 US dollars, 8.5 years tenor, and this bond was over 10 times oversubscribed. So I guess that's figure
10 times.
10 times, yeah.
Okay, that should make Treasury happy.
Itself.
They should be happy. The Treasury should be happy, right?
I am sure they are. They must have done a great job. So this is a really good outcome, I would say. 10 times is a very high oversubscription rate. And it just shows success and that there is a lot of demand for green bonds in the markets still even in the crisis, after the crisis. So yeah, I think that is a really good sign.
One story I read said that they'd settled at 30 basis points lower than expected for pricing range. I've got Caroline Harrison, our pricing person, on this call. She might want to make a comment that we can repeat, but the headline was very cool. I don't know how it actually looks. I'm hoping in the pricing report that we'll be doing a little later this year, we'll bring that in as a case study and see what it actually looks like, what it was in practice. But more reasons for the Treasury to be happy. So overall, it is a slow year for the reasons we know, but we do see issuance going up. We see a lot of talk in the discussion we've been having with investment bankers. They tell us that people haven't gone away from issuing green bonds. They've been on hold the last 3 months. And they think that all of those people are likely to come to market in the second half of this year based on what's happening in interest rates. So we will have to see.
Exactly.
Take us into this slide, Leah.
Yes, this is obviously what we're hoping for, that the second half of the year will be a little bit more in terms of volume. As I said, there's still interesting deals. If we look at the chart in front of us, we can see there was quite a bit of sovereign issuance last year that actually is only Lithuania for this month, for May 2020. However, what we will talk about in a few seconds, I guess it's also more gossip about sovereign issuance. So this is something that we definitely should keep an eye on. What we've also seen in May 2020, that we have a lot of government-backed entities who came to the market, That is also due to the US muni issuance that I mentioned a few seconds ago. And then also we have quite a few financial corporates. One of them is actually also a newcomer to the market. We have another green covered bond. There are not as many in the market yet. It is the second one from France, issued by Group BCP of 1.3 billion euros. So
Fantastic.
1.4 billion US dollars equivalent, maturing in 10 years' time.
So it's not the German fund brief market that's dominating this. The French are giving them a run for their money.
Correct. And this is the second largest covered bond ever issued. I also have to add that. So this is also a really good sign, and obviously also very good for investors because they're very safe instruments, very highly rated. So this is good news for investors.
Now, Caroline Harrison has reported in our chat box for everyone can see that Swisscom got 45 bips tightening in primary, which is pretty amazing. And they further tightened the immediate secondary market. So that's what you call demand, guys. And if that isn't a signal to all the other treasurers in the world, this is the time to do this, I don't know what is. Let's move on a little bit. Deutsche Bank, give us a bit more detail on this particular, what's happened with that?
So Deutsche Bank not issued in May, issued in June, so just last week. However, a little bit of a sneak peek for the next markets monthly update. This issuance was 9 times oversubscribed.
Wow.
They announced the issuance quite a while ago, and we're very happy that we saw it last week. And as I said, also very high demand for Deutsche Bank, and it is really good to see it. But we will obviously report more on that deal in the next markets monthly as well.
The other one was the Hungarian government sovereign, right, which has just been issued. What can you tell us ahead of next markets blog?
Yeah, so now we're a little bit we're looking at the upcoming months, so June, and then what else might be coming. Good to mention this, our Sovereign Green Bond Club, who has already quite a few members. Hungary, the most recent joiner last week as well, with a oversubscription rate of 5 times. So not as high as on the corporate side that we have just seen, but still 5 times, I think, is not a bad sign. And then we also have Sweden, who launched its green bond framework and who will probably issue before August this year. So that would be another member coming to the market and another green sovereign. And then there's no commitment yet, but also Egypt, Nigeria, as well as Spain are talking about green bonds. So in terms of issuance volume, we have hope that there will be more sovereigns coming and that the figures will increase towards the end of the year.
So we've actually got quite a lot happening around the world on this particular space. There's no doubt about it. Of course, in the context of the kind of green stimulus that we're seeing, and I want you to mention about that too, we can expect to see a lot more green bonds, particularly sovereign green bonds. Tell us a bit about what we heard in Europe, Leah, that you report on the blog.
Yeah, so for example, in Europe, we have the largest green stimulus package coming from Germany as of now, which is about 130 billion euros, 145 US dollars equivalent, mainly supporting electric vehicles and R&D for green hydrogen, but also many more projects. And good to know as well, Germany is also planning to issue a green bond at some point, hopefully this year. So this may actually even be in combination with the two. So they may actually take the opportunity, but we have to see if that's going to happen.
Well, for those of you that are interested, I am actually chairing a forum later this month, Future Europe, online. And on my panel, Anthony Requin from the Agence France Trésor, Elvira Erlings from the Dutch State Treasury Agency, who issued a certified climate bond, and Tamo Dima from the Bundesrepublik Deutschland Finanzagentur. That's probably terrible pronunciation, Leah, but I know you'll correct me. Who is, of course, the person in charge of the Green Bond Program. So I'm hoping we will hear something special from him. We'll be tweeting later this year. If you want to find out about that conference, Future Europe, tell me. It's pretty cool. In terms of the other things that we're seeing around the world, of course, the big news this month has been the Chinese regulators coming out with a new taxonomy to regulate the green bond market in China. What's interesting about this is all regulators are coming in at once. It's not just PBOC, which has been an issue in China because different regulators govern different slices of the market, and that's been a confusion. So now they're all consistent. And secondly, they've removed fossil fuels, especially coal, which has been a bit of a rock in the shoe for international investors in terms of their comfort in investing in the Chinese market. And also we've seen them add in other sectors, notably sustainable agriculture and some forms of renewable energy like geothermal and marine. So it's a very interesting. We'll be publishing a blog later today, watch your inbox, about that. And then we'll be publishing the full taxonomy translated in English in the next 24 or 36 hours. So if you want to find out more about that, that's one big development. But Leah, the other development was one I'm especially happy of. You know how we're working in Brazil. You know how there's some mixed signals coming out of the government. Was that politic enough? But yesterday, the Minister for Infrastructure in Brazil announced a program of green bond issuance for railways. Every single one will be climate bond certified coming out. And it's a massive bond program that will be coming to finance low carbon transport in Brazil, some of which will be used for the agriculture industry to avoid building roads, because roads lead to further impact on the environment. Railways, you don't get the deforestation. There's all these benefits that these programs you'll see coming through. So it's a pretty exciting program as another thing. What else have I missed on the government and then the gossip side?
So on the government side, I think one interesting detail as well in terms of COVID-19 relief, not Europe, but still in Canada, for example, everyone who's applying for COVID-19 relief will have to, all corporates will have to disclose climate impacts in order to actually be eligible for COVID-19 relief. I think this is also quite a big step. So we actually see the measures materializing that have been announced recently. So this is something that is very interesting. And then we also have the first university in Asia who has come out with a green bond this month. That is the National University of Singapore. Also a deal from June. So there will be more detail next time as well.
You've got a lot of reason to join us next time. Just last thing, Southern Company in the US, energy company, right? They've made an announcement. What is it?
Yes, it is a gas and electricity giant from the US, and they said they're also committed to net carbon zero by 2050. So yes, even now, in these circumstances, companies are not shying away from making commitments and being ambitious about their targets. So I think, especially on a broader scale for the whole picture, the transition to a low carbon economy is still a theme. So I think this is excellent, and it's good that we're seeing more of those announcements recently.
It gives you hope. Maybe we'll get there after all. It does.
Yeah.
50% reduction in 10 years, everyone. That's what the IPCC says we have to get. So these are really important. We need to wrap up now, Leah. Is there anything else you want to leave us, or we covered your agenda?
We covered my agenda. There's more next time.
More next time, and in a month's time. Watch your inbox to understand it. If you want to know about our next webinar, of note, the one I'm doing anyway, next Tuesday, I'm interviewing Martin Spolk, who's the head of the Sustainable Finance Unit in DG FISMA, the European Commission's Ministry of Finance. Why that's important? He's the architect of the sustainable finance measures that the European Commission has been pursuing. And we're going to have a no-holds-barred, frank, 1.5-hour conversation about what the hell is going on and what needs to happen in the future. Please join me on Tuesday, 1500 Paris time. In the meantime, Leah, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone online, remember, climatebonds.net/webinars. You can get access to recordings, podcasts, etc.
Thank you very much, Sean. Bye.